Yo. Yeah. I work a long day, but it's worth it knowing when I get home I can relax and let the songs play.
Hi. Planar.
Wanna neck them lost straight. I slip the cassette in the deck, my collection's eclectic as it gets, though everything's fresh. What I select depends purely on my mood. Hip hop, folk, soul, blues. It's all about the groove until I fall about the room in a drunken stupor. Such a loser, spinning like a DJ on my computer. The bottle's gone, I'm a trooper, but now the off is shut and
Okay, TIN HiFi P1s. At this point, I almost feel like these things qualify for a retro review because they've been out for quite a while already, but I have been very much looking forward to checking them out for a long time. I hoped that my anticipation wouldn't create like unrealistic expectations because, you know, frustration, anger...
Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering.
But it did. Unfortunately, it did create unrealistic expectations. Nothing like, you know, my world wasn't shattered or anything like that, but let's talk about them because, from my point of view at least, they have pretty darn big shoes to fill coming from the same company that brought us the infamous TIN T2s, but, you know, being planar-magnetic IEMs, I expected them to be very different, with somewhat of a same, like, tin flavor to them, but very different, and these little things are pretty special. Even at the asking price of $160, which is not MSRP, strangely enough. I think they have never been sold for MSRP ever, but you know, so let's just consider that to be the price. Anyway, even for that money, they are more special than I expected or imagined they would be, sort of because of their pedigree, almost. And there are other IEMs around the same price range and a little bit lower in price actually that would maybe be more, you know, safer options for you guys because they are not that disruptive in the way that they treat sound. But these are an experience that is absolutely worth the money. Absolutely. But alright, what does $160 buy you in terms of TIN P1s? Well, the unboxing is fancy, or at least much fancier than the other IEMs from TIN we've looked at so far. The box is much more serious looking compared to the T2s, at least, like it's all black and everything, and it's much bigger too, because it has to accommodate the IEMs and the carrying case with the respective tip package and cable package. Yes, a TIN IEM with a carrying case. It's gorgeous. It's leather, closing with magnets. It has felt-like material inside to make everything smooth and to protect the very shiny IEMs. And it's a great case. It's beautiful, and it has a more conventional design that's more horizontal instead of the sort of top-heavy, tall one that used to come with these IEMs. But it does require sort of deeper pockets, and it's not exactly winning any, you know, portability awards. It's a pretty nice case, but I mean, you gotta admit, this is not exactly small. It comes with the basic 3 sets of tips, 2 being silicone, 1 being foam, and the cable, which, I mean, it's comfortable, it's not heavy, it's flowy, it's all copper, but it does leave a little bit to be desired in terms of how loose the braid is. It feels like a very premium cable up to the splitter, but I do know a bunch of people that wouldn't really like this cable that much. Even TIN themselves have better cables on the other IEMs they sell, but it's up to you really. If you do decide to exchange these cables for anything else, just make sure to get MMCX connector ones. And finally, we have the IEMs, and I find it really refreshing to see that these are more premium ones in TIN's roster, but instead of the normal route of IEMs getting bigger when moving up the ladder, these actually got smaller. They're pretty tiny, all things considered, don't you think? Yeah, they're made of metal with the sort of triangular design wedged on the sides, but they are small, so overall, it's still a lightweight pair. But the more peculiar thing about them is the stem. It's not totally unusual to have long stems on IEMs, but for the overall size of these IEMs, it almost looks out of place. Still, I'm 100% sure that they have designed this longer stem to push the driver away from your ears, sort of, and if you place your tips just right, it does make a very big difference in terms of sound quality. But we'll get there. Anyway, these puppies are planar magnetic IEMs with 10mm drivers in each monitor, and they are supposed to be easy enough to drive, like okay-ish, but the truth is, if you don't pour enough juice into them, they're not really gonna get singing. It's not that they are impossible to drive, it's just that they are as easy to drive as the 150 ohm HD5X Jubilee, for example. So no, you don't need a nuclear reactor to power them, and if you plug them into an iPhone dongle, you are gonna get enough volume, but that's gonna be like closing into the max output. If you do have access to something like a little bit stronger with more power behind it, these are definitely going to benefit. But hey, listen to this. You ready? The TIN HiFi P1s come with a 10mm planar diaphragm driver with ultra nano diaphragm technology with a thickness of 1 micron that allows for higher resolution and faster transient response. These descriptions, man, they crack me up. But you guys can say whatever you want, TIN, honestly, and that's because of how the P1s sound, which is awesome. Seriously, these things sound amazing. But let me break it down. The highs are impressively detailed, they're fast, they're accurate, and with a resolution and a texturing to them that's beyond surprising. And they are not harsh in presentation or in tonality, even with this much information being pushed at once. The level of control the P1s show in this particular region is nothing short of remarkable, and it makes them very revealing, but not shouty at all. But the mids are 100%, in my opinion, the reason why the P1s sound as good as they do, even over this impressive display of treble notes that we just went through. Piggybacking from all that detail, the mid-range brings out so much in every song and sound with a lushness to everything that makes vocals sound just right. The texturing and sort of neutral blend of tonal characteristics with the detail turns these into very enjoyable little vocal machines. From the sweetest, most melodic and mellow to the more gritty, deep and ravenous ones. Low end though is sort of the point of contention regarding the P1s. Many people think that they are like right on the money, like spot on the ball. And many others don't really think the low end even is there, a bit too shy. And honestly, from my experience at least, I think I know why that is, and it's potentially a very stupid reason why, but hear me out. And I'm not saying like everyone that has a problem with the low end on the P1s did exactly what I'm about to tell you guys, but it's possible. Using the stock silicone tips, most people push them a bit further into the stem before putting the tins on. Putting them on, or do you put IEMs in? Listening to stuff with them. And that's a mistake, and graduating to the foam tips already helps a great deal, but the magic is in positioning the tips, either one of them, exactly at the right spot, right at the end of the stem, using the line that it gives you as sort of a guide, and that's where the money is for those low-end kicks. What is an otherwise a bit shy and underwhelming low end gets to a place where it hits properly, it's fast, and with pretty great control, even if not with the warmest and thickest of punches, just like planar headphones usually are, actually. So speaking of the P1 sound in general terms, these IEMs are impressive. They're fast, they can provide a good low end, and they have a phenomenal performance across the board. The level of detail and texturing is absolutely not in question, imaging is impeccable, and if you position the tips just right, it gains a little bit of air to breathe, expanding the otherwise narrow soundstage, which is awesome. But even if you don't do that, well, you're going to lose a little bit on the low end, but even if you don't do that, that narrow soundstage isn't claustrophobic. That's not easy to do, but you know that it's narrow, it's just not crushing you into that super narrow space. But also don't really get your hopes up, because no matter what you do, these are not going to get super wide. The sound signature on the P1s, it's just so good. It's so good. But remember, these have a lot of information being thrown at you all the time from all over the place, which makes them very revealing and very transparent. And that can be awesome, bringing to light and, forward detail in areas that you might have otherwise missed with other IEMs or headphones. That can be really great depending on what you're listening to. But at the same time, if what you're listening to is not really well recorded, well, the P1s are going to look at you and tell you, like, straight up to your face that your music sucks. But in the end, all things considered, everything taken into account, what's the verdict? Are they lackluster? Do they merit the $160? Are they worth the money? Well, it really depends on your tastes. With foam tips positioned properly, I'd say that these are like amazing, right on the money, on the ball. But if you are looking for something with earth-shattering bass, these are definitely not the IEMs for you, like 100% not. So what about those unrealistic expectations? Well, I was almost expecting to sit here in front of you guys and say that, yeah, the P1s are perfect, no matter what, across the board, in every single situation, they are the best thing since sliced bread. And that's not true. But they are different, and a very good kind of different. The level of intimacy and transparency that you get listening to your music through the P1s is an experience on its own. It's very peculiar, it's something that's very unique and incredibly hard to find in either headphones or IEMs out there. It's an experience that it's absolutely worth it. These are really something special. And that's been it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, so share it and check out these other ones that might be of interest to you as well. Thanks a lot for watching. This is Gus, and I'll catch you guys later.